Those dang Duke Blue Devils. Dang it. Why? Nik Khamenia does not choose UCLA.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the semi-breaking news edition of Locked On UCLA. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you hear your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for your support. This episode is brought to you by none other than FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Where we get started today is Nik Khamenia, the local kid who made his decision between Gonzaga, Duke, and UCLA, chose Duke. The kid chose Duke. Oh, yes, kids can make their own decisions. I will say the last Harvard Westlake kid that chose to go elsewhere ended up coming to UCLA, a la Trent Perry, although it was a little different situation with USC and company. So UCLA, on what I believe to be their top 2025 target with the new iteration of National Signing Day, whatever it's going to look like without the National Letter of Intent, they don't got a guy at this moment. This was their top target, and I'm pretty sure I saw a crystal ball, I think on the rival side. I don't want to misquote that, but this kid, it seemed like he was going to UCLA when the last official visit was to UCLA. Did go to Gonzaga. He went there a few times. But a West Coast kid choosing Duke, who just had two commits from the Boozer twins. All right? The Boozer twins of all things. And I think I saw a note from Eric Sonheimer, the great local prep writer for the LA Times. And it's something he did post was that as a commit to Duke, the advisors, Excel Sports Management, also represent the Boozer twins who headed to Duke. So he's got the same advisors representation, if you will, Excel Sports Management, that represented the Boozer twins who decided to go to Duke. So he announced his decision live. And in my mind, it's very, very surprising. At least I am. He probably knew. I think I read something earlier in the day that everybody was in the dark. I thought he might be going to UCLA. I wasn't going to come out crystal ball it, but it seemed like a foregone conclusion. He probably wasn't going to go to Gonzaga after many visits, but he was in the top three. I thought UCLA had an inside track. He mentioned he had two former high school teammates on the UCLA team currently. And this is a guy that fitted the mold, the body type, the archetype of what Mick Cronin needs next year, right? He's losing Stefanovic. You're going to lose Kobe Johnson. You need that 6'7", 6'8", wing, 6'9" wing. And I guess the knock on him was he isn't the most explosive, but he knows how to play basketball, knows how to make things happen on the court. And it's exactly the type of build of a player that UCLA needs for next year's roster construction in 2025, because a couple of these seniors, that's the body size they're losing, right? They need a center to recruit, but UCLA need that 6'8", 6'7" wing that they're just not going to get with Khamenia, right? It seemed like Andrej Stojakovic was a guy UCLA could have gotten a couple years ago. They missed out on him. So in recent times, despite, if you don't include the flip from Trent Perry, a former teammate of Nik Khamenia himself, UCLA hasn't been going to go win in the high school recruiting rankings. And yes, Cronin went and did an absolute number on the transfer portal this season. And this UCLA team is supposed to be very good, despite their, loss to San Diego State in the closed door scrimmage. But next year, you don't know who's going to stay. You don't know who's going to go pro. You got a couple of seniors, and some guys might try to go pro even if they're not ready. Khamenia, I thought that was a good fit. And if Cronin's trying to go all in, they've been recruiting him for years, to miss out on this guy to the dang Duke Blue Devils, it just sucks, all right? It's just, I didn't think that was happening, especially after they just got a couple of commits. How many commits do you need, Duke? How many? Like, come on. UCLA has no freshman commit. They have no commits right now. Unless Mick Cronin's going to pull one out of left field, like, they got no commits coming in the 25 class. Yes, they just brought in 8 guys, and there are plenty of people who will be staying around for the 2025 season. But rosters turn over, guys expecting to stay will leave. Some guys will have a big year, and they will try and go pro. But man, that's disappointing. It absolutely is. Like, even reading the recruiting from like ESPN, you've got Jeff Borzello, Paul Biancardi. Like, Duke came in and swooped this kid at the last minute, right? This was a late overtaking for UCLA. This is a guy in UCLA's backyard. Everything made sense. All the other guys, Cronin turn, maybe there's bigger NIL deals, maybe something that did. This was somebody that, UCLA should have gotten. And this is what Khamenia told ESPN. Duke was a place I visited and felt it was special from the moment I left campus. Coach Shire, the Duke head coach, believes in me and my abilities. Duke is a special place that has put out a lot of great players and helped them develop. And man, he talked a lot about Coach Shire. And one of those things is, I think what ESPN's Jonathan Givney was saying, could be a one and done product. A player with USA Basketball at the U18 FIBA America Cup over the year, won a gold like almost every USA Basketball team seems to do, over 7.5 points, has apparently a very good basketball IQ, very jab steppy, right? Maybe a la Jaime Jaquez, a little bit in a different form. And this is what his high school coach had to say. Nick is an incredible young man who has grown and developed every single year. The Harbor Westlake head coach. He has a blue-collar approach to basketball with a tremendous amount of skill, vision, IQ, and toughness. He is the ultimate winner. And here is a quote from Khamenia to wrap this up. The Boozers are the ultimate winners, and they are like-minded to me. About his fellow recruits. I have talked to them a bit, and I've played against them as well. I respect them a lot, as both as players and as people. All right? And what's interesting, though, if you think about this, Cooper Flagg was supposed to be in this class. He reclassified. So one wonders, if you go back to even Cooper Flagg reclassifying, he was supposed to be a year later, comes in a year sooner, is a consensus top pick in the 2025 draft. That means Duke flips, and all of a sudden they're going after these kids. They get 3, and now they're the only school with 3 top 35 commits in the 25 class, and UCLA's got nothing to show for it. It was in the palm of their hands. What happened to that NIL that UCLA is supposed to have, right? The new champion of Westwood umbrella for, the men of Westwood for UCLA. That's the men's basketball branch of NIL. I'm not sure if there was a big bag, if something went sour late, even if it's not bad, but goodness gracious, man, that was all the respect to the kid to making this decision. All the respect, you can't hate on a high school kid for making a decision, right? Regardless of how much we talk about it, it's just a stunning, I was stunned. I was waiting for it, and I was like, Duke? Are you serious right now? Come on. Oh, frustrating. He made a decision. Congratulations to him. He had 3 fantastic choices. That leaves UCLA in a little bit of a hole, not too much, and we'll talk more about it next on Locked On UCLA. Hey, UCLA fans, it's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we pulled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. And with the Roy app, you can directly show your support to the athletes you love, ensuring that all the funds go to the specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going. And you can even receive exclusive content like the personal videos and updates after the season. The best part, risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver the content, you get your money back. This week, I'm supporting Ethan Garbers. Dude, this man balled out for UCLA. Ethan Garbers, dude. 400 yards, he almost had 400 yards passing, 5 total touchdowns. That's the man who can get some love. Join me in pitching in. I'd love for you to join me. $10 can make a difference. Let's show Ethan Garbers the love and keep him connected to UCLA and connected to the school. Remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets your team up for success. Don't miss out on the Roy exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, use the referral code Locked On, and you're entered. If you're already on Roy, any contribution to an athlete's campaign gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary, void, or prohibited. Download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscriptions and no fees. Be sure to check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy. Return on you for more information. Roy, support the players, change the game. Oh, man. Like, the more I'm looking at it, like, Nik Khamenia, it looked like he was going to UCLA. It's just stunning. A little. I even briefly mentioned like his announcement in the last Locked On UCLA episode, right? The Monday where I was talking about the scrimmage. This is back-to-back L's for the UCLA basketball program. I thought we were supposed to have good vibes. Good vibes for basketball. It was supposed to be, all right, they look cool against San Diego State. They beat them up. You're supposed to get a Khamenia commit. All right, awesome. No, it's been anything but. You go lose to San Diego State in a scrimmage. All right, it's not a real game. It's a controlled atmosphere of sorts. San Diego State wasn't playing with everybody. Cronin probably played more players than he will in a game, but not by much, or some guys will get more minutes. And then this commit, I'm looking at what UCLA's got, right? I'm trying to look at the 24/7 sports site. The only real targets UCLA has at this moment, like, there aren't much. If you look on the target, you've got Braden Burries, who at this moment, the Eastfield kid who goes to Roosevelt, doesn't look like he's committed. 6'4" shooting guard. That's not the same mold and player that Khamenia is, right? That's a different body type. That's a different player. UCLA's got an endless amount of backcourt. And while this kid in the IE is good, where's UCLA going to go, right? All these kids have started to make connections. And am I going to sit here and be dumb and be like, all right, you can go after the 5-star Koa Pete from Arizona? Yes, Cronin went like every coach in America could, or if they wanted to, would, and checked him out in the summer tournaments in Arizona last year when he was a rising 2025 star who hasn't yet, I think in my moment from what I've read, to make his commitment. UCLA isn't warm on him. 6'8", small forward. But after what Cronin showcased in the portal, what he showcased with the NIL, I wouldn't be surprised that if UCLA makes a late run, all right? Because Perry was going to USC. He was going with Andy Enfield. Then things don't go as well for USC. They have the Bronny James. They have all these players. They underachieved, did USC, and then Enfield bolts to SMU. And so do the rest of the players. The Bruins grabbed Johnson. They grabbed Perry in a late season reversal, a late season switch in terms of his commitment, flipped him. So there's still a small percent chance that things go sour for Duke, and maybe, the relationship that Khamenia has with Shire changes. Maybe the NIL commitments, whatever that might be, whether those look like. We've seen players like the UNLV quarterback and running back out, right? And that's changed things. I'm not entirely sure Duke is hurting for basketball money on the men's side right now. Or, especially with Cooper Flagg reclassifying, right? If he doesn't reclassify, do they even go after this kid? But there's not a lot of guys left in what UCLA needs for next year. It's not they don't need a lot of guys. Let's pause and remember, UCLA does not need a 3-man class, a 2-man class. They just need to go get somebody in the portal. And I thought they would get somebody like a Khamenia to fill the role as that small forward, maybe bigger shooting guard, small power forward, right? Maybe someone who could be a hybrid 2.5, 3.5 type player if you're looking at him on the floor. I'm going to bring it in, breathe out. They don't need a bunch of guys, but it is shocking that they couldn't get the guy in their own backyard. Football, they need to just go recruit in Southern California, the greater Los Angeles area. You'll find talent good enough to compete in the Big Ten. That's all Deshaun Foster needs to do. Mick Cronin just lost a recruiting war to Duke in his own backyard. It looked like he was beating Gonzaga. I didn't even think Duke had a shot. And he was crystal ball basically to UCLA in a late twist. And when I read, I think it was posted on social, maybe it was the 24/7 sports site, that not even it didn't seem like his own camp truly knew where he was going. That kind of worried me because it seemed like, UCLA's the clear-cut choice, right? Apparently not. But with transfers, NIL money that can come through, be backed out, right? Things can change, and they can theoretically still get this kid. But he's a hard commit to Duke, and man, that is a stunning turn for a team that, think about it, Dominic Harris has multiple years, Sky Clark has multiple years, Sebastian Mack, Dylan Andrews, all right, all got multiple years. Eric Franey, who saw no time in that scrimmage, multiple years, obviously, is the incoming freshman, Trent Perry. William Kyle, more than 1 year. Bilodeau, yes. You see where I'm going with this? Brennan Williams. Now, if Devin Williams and Daimara can develop in different ways, become immediate contributors this year or for more Devin Williams next year, they've got a bunch of players who could and should return and maybe might develop into a third, fourth-year star at UCLA, second or third-year star if they came in the portal. But you have 2 seniors in a spot that Cronin, at this moment, unless he pulls and switches or pulls a rabbit out of the hat to go get a number one top recruit in the country, he just lost out on what was his top target. And that's unfortunate to see because I thought UCLA was kind of done with that. All right, I know relationships are a thing, finding the right fit, the right school, maybe getting away from home is something. I'm not sure if that's the case. But UCLA should not be losing out on guys that they're favorites to get in their own backyard, right? That just should not be happening, all right? Whether it's the Duke, North Carolina, they shouldn't. If it's like they are the number one and there's nobody else, okay, I'm not sure if it was the backlog of players. If you saw, hey, look at the scrimmage. They played 11 guys deep. I'm not sure, but that's where it is, all right? That's where UCLA, in the class of 25 recruiting, they all their prospects are either very cold on UCLA, very, I wonder where Cronin goes. He's probably sitting there cursing up the storm. Maybe he knew this was coming. Maybe he didn't. I just wonder what's going on in his mind with the last-minute switch or what supposedly is a last-minute switch. Who knows? Maybe he knew this right away. But, man, frustrating to say the least if you're a UCLA fan, banking on what could have been a key recruit. Because I think this comes in 2 players. You get one guy in the portal who you like, and you get someone who can develop. Now Cronin has to maybe throw a Hail Mary for the 25 class and then find a portal guy, if not 2. Frustrating. Next, we'll go around the Big Ten in football, and we'll take a look around the Big Ten. Next on Locked On UCLA. Hey, what's up? Go check out FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, right? You looked at the numbers. UCLA has been an underdog in almost all these games. Maybe they'll be a favorite coming up in a home game or 2 down the stretch. So maybe you check it out. But UCLA was an underdog against Rutgers. If you chose UCLA, that would be the perfect time to go put your first $5 bet and earn $200 in bonus bets and a win at the same time. Do you believe in the Bruins? Well, they got a bye week this week. But when they're coming out of that and they're taking on Nebraska, hey, it might be interesting. Go check out FanDuel. Again, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right, cruising on, last segment of Locked On UCLA, something we didn't get to do in the Monday episode, but what we're going to do here on Tuesday is a look around the Big Ten. All right, take a look. Here's what UCLA's conference foes, new and old, awkward and forever, who knows? This is what the Big Ten looked like around the weekend. Oregon dominated Purdue 35-0. Maybe could have been forever. It was Oregon's first road shutout in over 3 decades. 3 decades! And from what I was reading, maybe not the sharpest Oregon looked, coming off one of the biggest wins in their program's history. Other than maybe making it to a Rose Bowl or a national championship, one of the biggest regular season wins for Oregon in their history, beating Ohio State. They followed that up with what could be drummed up as a trap game, Purdue and West Lafayette on a Friday night. They handled business, whether it was pretty or not, 35-0 when they could have struggled for a little bit. Then Indiana destroying Nebraska 56-7 with their quarterback only playing a half. Curtis Rourke getting hurt. That's unfortunate. Indiana's dream season to 7-0. Just as a more than a casual fan, of course, just because of an underdog who loves basketball schools that want them to do well in football and the Kurt Cignetti quotes and all that. The better Indiana looks, the more it helps the UCLA strength of schedule, which is what I believe the toughest ever. And in the country right now. And it makes Nebraska look a little more human. Nebraska 5-2, UCLA coming off a win against a then 4-2 Rutgers team. And I've kind of had a weird inkling that game in early November in Nebraska could be a little sleepy. You see a 2-5 UCLA team, a currently 5-2 Nebraska team, a true freshman quarterback that's good, but still can make some mistakes. maybe that's a trap game for Nebraska hosting UCLA, who last time the Bruins played in Lincoln did pull off a win, although that was the Brett Hundley, Jim Mora Bruins when UCLA, I think, was down 18 points, had the review on the field goal there. It was the Nick Pasquale game that weekend or weekend after, and the Bruins came out with the win. I wonder what that UCLA-Nebraska game is going to look like in a couple of weeks with the Bruins off a bye. Last time, UCLA got absolutely blasted off a bye. This time, I hope UCLA looks much improved and plays good football like they've been showing slowly and incrementally week by week. Michigan and Illinois, two teams not on UCLA's schedule, but just proves that, man, Michigan is struggling this year. They're not a top 10 team like anybody looked like. Texas ran right over them when they went to Ann Arbor. USC couldn't go beat them. Minnesota couldn't go beat them. But Michigan, they can run the football. They're physical. But when they had to go to Illinois, a team who's now 6-1, the only team Illinois has lost to this year has been Penn State. Man, Michigan, they're not frauds, but they've gone to Washington on the road and lost. They just have terrible quarterback luck. They have Jack Tuttle, who's been around probably as old as me, it seems like, as a quarterback in his 6th, 7th year. They've just been struggling. They can't do anything offensively. But good for Illinois to get a win at home. Wisconsin taking down Northwestern, making sure those Wildcats have one win in Big Ten play. And, UCLA trying to beat that preseason 15th place prediction from the official, unofficial media poll by Cleveland.com. I take it as a win if UCLA gets much higher than that. Then you've got a big, big dub for Maryland. The Terrapins, who beat USC 29-28. All right? The Bruins, we love to see when USC sucks. Let's be real. When they suck, it's amazing. 3-4 are the Trojans, right? Yeah, hang your hat on a neutral site LSU team, who I still think is overrated. USC, UCLA, don't look now, tied in the Big Ten standings. Tied. After all that mumbo jumbo, they're tied in the Big Ten standings. All right? Huge dub for Maryland, who got their first Big Ten win. All right? And Maryland could have been a winless team in Big Ten. UCLA would have been ahead of them. But USC blows a 14-point halftime lead, a late lead where they had a field goal to go up 9, had it blocked, and Maryland scores a late touchdown to win. Spectacular. And then a unique win for Michigan State, wins 32-20, beats Iowa. And I think that UCLA game at the Rose Bowl, which might be invaded by Iowa fans on a Friday night, is all the more interesting. All right? Like, very, very interesting. A homecoming game. If the Bruins, dare I say it, look impressive against Nebraska, maybe a win, maybe something that gets our hearts going, our spirits up. I think that Iowa game will be very entertaining. While they put up a couple of points, I do believe that Hawkeye, the Nebraska-Iowa games, after those teams have struggled, UCLA's looked a little better the last 2 weeks, specifically against Rutgers. And with how the Bruins can handle, supposedly according to the numbers, the run game, keeping Rutgers in check, Minnesota a little bit in check with the numbers and yards per game, UCLA all of a sudden, if they can handle the bye week and Garbers continues to play much better football and the defense doesn't come unglued, they play a little more disciplined football. This is a team who in the preseason, I looked at that schedule in the back half, can make a run. None of those teams are as good as Indiana, LSU, Penn State, and who am I forgetting? Oregon, right? The number one team in the country, literal number one team in the country, top 3 team in the country in Penn State on the road, going play a top 10 LSU team on the road, an Indiana team that's playing like a top 10 team when their quarterback's healthy. All right? Like, that is what UCLA has been doing this season in those 4 straight games. So nothing they face in front of them will be tougher than what they've dealt with already. It's just a matter of execution, enthusiasm, disciplined football, and respecting the process. All right, I'm throwing in an extra pillar. Execution for UCLA. All right, they do that, and the Bruins can mess around. I'm not going to say they're going to go make a run at the bowl at the moment, but they can mess around with a higher win total than what the preseason predictions had, and a much better optimistic view heading into the 2025 season, year 2 of Big Ten play, which might help out significantly with enhancing the 25 class through the portal and maybe a couple of last-second high school signees. If you're building and people see it, that can help with recruiting immensely. And that's what I'm hoping for this team. Now, if they go just suck and it's been just the win before the bye, okay. But I'd love the Bruins to get a freaking win at home, beat USC, go beat Fresno, quit losing streaks to one of those teams, keep the victory bell in the other, and you mess around and get a dub here or there, all of a sudden, hey, this will be an entertaining finish to the year with still plenty of football to play for the Bruins, all right? Deshaun Foster wants to get to a bowl. Big expectations. There's always some teams who struggle in the beginning of the year and figure it out at the end of the year, giving them a lot more hype heading into 25. Can the Bruins do that? I'd love to see it. And the way the Big Ten has been playing out, UCLA, I don't think is the worst team in the Big Ten. They might not be much better, but they're not the worst, which is why we should get our hands up. 8 clap time, baby. Little frustrating day after UCLA loses a commit to Duke, but let's get an 8 clap anyway, and no Cronin's going to figure it out. All right. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, UCLA. UCLA, fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.